you're only as great as your teammates, allow you to be as well.
People gonna try to blame whatever, blame whoever. They can blame me. I just didn't play good enough.
You have your big guys that make big plays at the end of games, throughout the game, or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, teams win championships. I don't lose sleep over that. Like, fuck, how did me and Luka lose?
Right, no.
Well, yeah. There's 8 other guys on the floor.
Yeah.
So
of course,
So
I think that cannot be excuse.
The Timberwolves-Lakers series has long been over with, but that hasn't stopped LeBron from coming up with new excuses. First, he came out with an injury.
This is the first time I've ever had a sustained knee injury where I had to okay, you got to get off your feet. I knew as soon as when the impact happened with me and DiVincenzo, I felt it right away. My knee locked up, and that's why I stayed on the ground for quite a minute to see if the knee will kind of release a little bit, and that's the MCL injury that I had. So 4 to 6 weeks, the docs told me. I have 4 to 6 weeks now. That's the benefit.
But that shouldn't be too surprising since he does it every time he loses.
Pretty much played the last 3 games with a broken hand, so. My ankle was the only thing that was kind of bothering me. Well, obviously bothered me in the later stage of the season. I tore a tendon in my foot. Went to the Lebron James of feet. But we were just hit with injuries after injuries after injuries, and it's hard to come back from that.
Even if we would have won game, at 5 at home, I would have probably missed 6 and 7, and even further. But
he said it was a grade 2 MCL sprain. Game 5 was still close when the impact happened, so he came up with this for insurance in case they lost. And that's why he didn't go to the locker room. If he really suffered that serious of an injury, he wouldn't be able to come back in the game or play the rest of the season if they won. And with that serious of an injury, he would have needed help to the locker room and crutches to leave the arena. Kevin Durant has suffered this exact injury dozens of times in his career, and every single time he goes straight to the locker room. The longest he ever played through an MCL sprain was 30 seconds, where he was completely immobile and writhing in pain the entire time. Not only did LeBron finish the game with 0 noticeable pain, he was even setting screens with other players running directly into that knee. And for those of you that are going to say LeBron just played through it and he's tougher than Kevin Durant, don't let his small frame fool you. Kevin Durant is one of the toughest players in the league. He played on a partial torn Achilles in the finals before tearing it all the way, and he only sits out when he absolutely has to.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off!
But it doesn't really matter when the Lakers would have lost. LeBron would have just waited until that happened. He takes a hard fall every game, so he could have come up with anything. You see, on that play, Randall actually broke my skull, and I couldn't see, I couldn't talk to my teammates or anything of that nature. And that's why I stayed on the ground so long, but I pretty much played games 2 through 5 with a broken face, so. You got all that right? LeBron also blamed the role players for him and Luka losing.
I don't lose sleep over that. Fuck, how did me and Luka lose?
No.
Well, yeah. There's 8 other guys on the floor.
Yeah. There's many reasons why this excuse isn't valid, but to keep things as simple as possible, here's the 4 players responsible for the Lakers offense in the series. Here's the 4 players responsible for the Timberwolves offense. Which 4 players are considered better? Which team had a better regular season and a higher seed? And which team was favored to win the series? Everyone knows the Timberwolves have more size and a better defense, while the Lakers have none. But outside of Game 5, when Rudy Gobert turned into Shaq, every game the Wolves won, their key players outplayed the Lakers' key players. Same goes for the game the Lakers won. Ant had players step up, but none of them are the caliber of Luka Doncic, which is why many thought the Lakers would easily win this series. Even if the Wolves are a bad matchup, nearly every game was close, and LeBron had key turnovers and missed shots in those games.
James looking to throw it into the front court. Bounce pass, deflected and stolen by McDaniels. But Hachimura got tied up. James fell out of his hands, picked up by McDaniels. McDaniels down the lane, inside, layup, good, into the hands of James, fires up a 3, side of the backboard. Doncic to James, James puts up a 3. Rebound.
Well, yeah, there's 8 other guys on the floor.
LeBron has not scored in the 4th quarter. Luka's got only 3 in the quarter. And Gobert's done a good job defending Doncic out there, altering his shot, offensive rebound, Hachimura, here comes LeBron, 3, no! Doncic a move, got the screen, the collision into DiVincenzo. Another rebound by Gobert. Conley ahead, Edwards with float and
So you can't just blame the role players. It's everyone's fault.
We need to be better. It's not his fault. I think it's everybody's fault. I mean, it's a little bit his fault too. I mean, but it's collectively as a group, we need to be much better.
Luka was just in the finals last year, and yes, they had centers. But so did the Minnesota Timberwolves when they had Cat, Gobert, and Naz Reid. So how did the Mavs beat them? Luka and Kyrie outplayed Ant and Cat in more games. They averaged more points on better shooting, and they took over and delivered in the clutch.
Gobert's out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it! Works by McDaniels, who's got to be careful. Spins, fades, fires, hits.
Give Kyrie a turn here now.
Irving and Edwards, Towns will pick him up. Backpedals, long shot.
They did the same thing against Harden and Paul George on the Clippers. Luka and Kyrie were the best duo in the West, so even though they didn't have the best team, they made the finals. Teams matter, but the superstars make the biggest difference in the playoffs. That's why the Warriors beat a bigger and better Rockets team. They had Steph and Jimmy. When one of them had a bad game, the other one stepped up. And if neither of them stepped up, they lost. Sure, they had a breakout game from Buddy Hield, but the Lakers had multiple breakout games from Rui Hachimura. And now that Steph's hurt, if he doesn't come back soon, they're gonna lose. That's why the Nuggets beat a better rounded Clipper team. They had Jokic, while Harden didn't show up in Game 7. And that's why the Knicks are up 2-0 against a better Celtics team. Brunson is outplaying Tatum and Brown. And if the Lakers won the series, would we hear about the greatness of Luka and LeBron, or about the other 8 guys on the court? I think we all know the answer to that question. So you don't get to take all the credit when you win, but none of the blame when you lose.